The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does not explicitly define concealed, and this term's interpretation often falls to the authority having jurisdiction, also known as the AHJ. Generally, concealed implies installation within walls, above ceilings, or inside approved raceways. The stipulation in NEC 334.3 dictating that an M cable must be concealed is subject to varied interpretations among jurisdictions. NEC 334.15 C provides specific allowances for installing Type NM cables in accessible attics, contingent upon protection from physical damage. It's noteworthy that this section doesn't directly reference the 15-minute finish rating outlined in 334.3, though such a rating is frequently implied. Similarly, NEC 334.23 permits the use of Type NM cables in unfinished basements, without explicitly mentioning the 15-minute finish rating. The AHJ in a particular area might interpret the code to mandate that all NM cable installations in commercial buildings be concealed behind a 15-minute finish rating regardless of location, including attics and unfinished basements. This represents a more stringent interpretation than is commonly observed, yet it remains within the AHJ discretionary powers to make such determinations. While this particular interpretation isn't universally enforced, its prevalence is on the rise. It is crucial to consult with the local AHJ to ascertain any specific prerequisites for NM cable installations in commercial structures. To elaborate further, understanding the nuances of the National Electrical Code and its application to specific scenarios, such as the use of non-metallic sheath cable or NM cable, commonly known as Romex, in commercial buildings, is crucial for electrical contractors and inspectors alike. The NEC serves as the benchmark for safe electrical installations, but its broad language often leaves room for interpretation, especially by local authorities having jurisdiction. The term concealed is one such example, as it is not explicitly defined within the NEC. This ambiguity leads to variations in how inspectors enforce the code, particularly concerning NM cable installations in areas like attics and unfinished basements of commercial buildings. The allowance for NM cable in attics is addressed in NEC section 334.15. D. This section permits NM cable in accessible attics, provided that it is protected from physical damage. The key phrase here is protected from physical damage. This typically involves running the cable through bored holes in framing members using running boards, or installing it in conduit where it is exposed to potential damage. The absence of a direct reference to the 15-minute finish rating requirement in 334.10.3 creates a point of contention. Some inspectors interpret 334.15 C as an exception to the general rule in 334.10.3, arguing that as long as the cable is protected from physical damage, the 15-minute finish rating is not required. Other inspectors, however, maintain that 334.10.3 applies universally, meaning that all NM cable in commercial buildings must be concealed behind a 15-minute finish, regardless of its location or physical protection. Similarly, the use of NM cable in unfinished basements is covered in NEC section 334.23. This section allows NM cable in unfinished basements, but like 334.15 C, it does not explicitly mention the 15-minute finish rating. The same interpretive debate arises here as with attics. Some argue that 334.23 provides an exception to 334.10.3, while others insist that the 15-minute finish rating applies regardless. The stricter interpretation, requiring a 15-minute finish rating for all NM cable in commercial buildings, is based on the belief that it provides an additional layer of fire protection. A 15-minute finish rating means that the materials used to conceal the cable, such as drywall or plaster, can withstand exposure to fire for at least 15 minutes before failing. This delay can be critical in allowing occupants to evacuate the building safely. The authority having jurisdiction, or OJ, plays a pivotal role in interpreting and enforcing the NEC. The AHJ is typically a local building inspector or electrical inspector who has the authority to approve or reject electrical installations. The AHJ interpretation of the code is binding in the jurisdiction, even if it differs from interpretations in other areas. This is why it is essential for electrical contractors to maintain a good working relationship with their local AHJ and to understand their specific requirements. To navigate these complex issues, electrical contractors should take the following steps. Firstly, thoroughly review the NEC and any local amendments. Pay close attention to sections 334.10, 334.15, C, and 334.23, as well as any related definitions. Secondly, consult with the local AHJ before beginning any NM cable installation in a commercial building. Discuss the specific requirements for the project and obtain written approval if possible. Thirdly, document all communication with the AHJ. Keep records of all meetings, phone calls, and emails, as well as any written approvals received. Fourthly, provide adequate physical protection for NM cable in attics and unfurnished basements. This may involve using running boards, conduit, or other approved methods. Fifthly, consider using alternative wiring methods. If there is any doubt about the AHJ interpretation of the code, consider using alternative wiring methods such as electrical metallic tubing, or IMT, or armored cable, or AC. These methods are generally considered more robust and may be less subject to interpretation. In addition to the specific requirements for NM cable in attics and unfinished basements, there are several other general requirements for NM cable installations that contractors should be aware of. Firstly, NM cable must be supported and secured at intervals not exceeding 4.5 feet and within 12 inches of boxes, cabinets, and fittings. Secondly, NM cable must be protected from physical damage where exposed. This may involve using conduit, guard strips, or other approved methods. Thirdly, NM cable must be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner. Cable should be run parallel to framing members and should not be subjected to excessive stress or strain. Fourthly, NM cable must be properly identified. All cables should be labeled with their voltage, amperage, and conductor size. Fifthly, NM cable must be inspected and approved by the AHJ before the electrical system is energized. In summary, the use of NM cable in commercial buildings is a complex issue with varying interpretations. Electrical contractors must be knowledgeable of the NEC, local amendments, and the specific requirements of the local AHJ. By following these steps, contractors can ensure that their NM cable installations are safe, code compliant, and approved by the authorities. Furthermore, understanding the reasoning behind the code requirements can help contractors make informed decisions and communicate effectively with inspectors. The intent of the NEC is to provide a minimum standard for electrical safety, and while some interpretations may seem overly strict, they are often based on legitimate concerns about fire and shock hazards. By working collaboratively with the AHJ and prioritizing safety, contractors can contribute to a safer electrical environment for everyone. To delve deeper into the specifics of NEC sections relevant to NM cable, let's break down the key requirements and potential interpretations. Firstly, NEC 334.10.3 addresses use as not permitted for NM cable. It states that NM cable shall not be used in any dwelling or structure not specifically permitted in 334.10.1, 334.10.2, and 334.12. This section is often interpreted to mean that NM cable is generally prohibited in commercial buildings unless specifically allowed elsewhere in Article 334. The reference to a 15-minute finish rating stems from the general requirement that wiring methods in commercial buildings be concealed or protected. The idea is that if NM cable is concealed behind a material with a 15-minute fire rating, it provides a degree of protection against fire hazards. Secondly, NEC 334.15 C, as previously mentioned, allows NM cable in accessible attics, provided it is protected from physical damage. The debate here revolves around what constitutes adequate physical protection and whether this section overrides the general prohibition in 334.10.3. Some inspectors may require the NM cable to be run through conduit or otherwise shielded from potential damage, while others may accept simpler methods like running boards. Thirdly, NEC 334.23 permits NM cable in unfinished basements. Similar to the attic provision, the interpretation of this section varies. Some inspectors may allow NM cable to be run along the underside of floor joists, while others may require it to be installed in conduit or otherwise protected. The key is to demonstrate that the cable is not exposed to physical damage. In addition to these specific sections, it's important to consider the general requirements for cable support and protection outlined in NEC Article 300. This article provides rules for securing and supporting cables, protecting them from physical damage, and ensuring that they are installed in a neat and workmanlike manner. One important aspect of NM cable installation is derriting conductors when multiple cables are bundled together. NEC Section 310.15 8.3 addresses this issue, requiring that the ampacity of conductors be reduced when more than 3 current-carrying conductors are bundled together in a raceway or cable. This is to prevent overheating and potential fire hazards. The amount of derriting depends on the number of conductors and the ambient temperature. Another crucial consideration is the proper sizing of circuit breakers and overcurrent protection devices. NEC Section 240.4 provides rules for protecting conductors against overcurrent. The general rule is that the overcurrent protection device should not exceed the ampacity of the conductor it is protecting. However, there are exceptions to this rule, particularly for small conductors. The NEC provides tables that specify the allowable ampacities of different conductor sizes and types. These tables are essential for ensuring that electrical systems are properly protected against overcurrent. In the context of commercial buildings, it's also important to be aware of the requirements for emergency and standby power systems. NEC Article 700 covers emergency systems, which are intended to provide power to essential loads during a power outage. Article 701 covers legally required standby systems, which are intended to provide power to loads that are not essential for life safety but are required by law. Article 702 covers optional standby systems, which are intended to provide power to non-essential loads during a power outage. These articles specify the requirements for the design, installation, and maintenance of these systems. Furthermore, understanding the concept of voltage drop is critical for ensuring the proper performance of electrical circuits. Voltage drop occurs when the voltage at the end of a circuit is lower than the voltage at the source. This can be caused by the resistance of the conductors and the amount of current flowing through the circuit. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction or fail. NEC Section 210.19 A1 Informational Note Number 4 recommends that voltage drop on branch circuits should not exceed 3% and that the total voltage drop on feeders and branch circuits should not exceed 5%. To minimize voltage drop, it's important to use conductors of adequate size and to keep circuit lengths as short as possible. Considering grounding and bonding, these are essential for electrical safety. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which allows the overcurrent protection device to trip and to energize the circuit. Bonding connects all metal parts of the electrical system together, creating a low impedance path for fault current. NEC Article 250 provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding. It's crucial to follow these requirements carefully to ensure that electrical systems are properly grounded and bonded. In addition to the technical aspects of NM cable installations, it's important to consider the legal and contractual aspects. Electrical contractors should have a clear understanding of their responsibilities and liabilities. They should also have insurance coverage to protect themselves against potential claims. Before starting any electrical work, contractors should obtain the necessary permits and approvals from the local authorities. They should also provide their customers with a written contract that clearly outlines the scope of work, the price, and the payment terms. Furthermore, maintaining accurate records of all electrical work is essential. This includes records of materials used, tests performed, and inspections completed. These records can be valuable in the event of a dispute or claim. In conclusion, The proper installation of an NM cable in commercial buildings requires a thorough understanding of the NEC local amendments and the specific requirements of the AHJ. Electrical contractors must be knowledgeable of the technical, legal, and contractual aspects of electrical work. By following these guidelines, contractors can ensure that their NM cable installations are safe, code compliant, and approved by the authorities.